Hey guys, welcome to our February CC info share. We got a full house today and we wanted to introduce everyone. You can can you guys see my screen okay? Yes. All right. So we're going to first kind of do a round robin of who you see on your screen. You can see our names, but just, who they are. So obviously I'm Delight Miles. I'm a training specialist. How about you, Kat? You go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's the order? Because this is like,
I don't know what the order is. It's
I'm
kind
just
of
gonna
like
call
Zoom.
the next person who I see. So I'm Kat
Yeah.
Sobolopinskis, and I am the care clinician support person, and I have Anna next on my screen.
Everyone, my name is Anna Williams and I work on the Living Well grant with SDS, and the next person on my screen is Summer.
Hi everyone, I'm Summer Wheeler and I am the Provider Certification and Compliance Unit Manager. And I have Joanna next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Joanna Croxton. I am a Health Program Manager 2 in the IDD unit. I mainly do the intake for the ICAP applications. And the next person on my screen is Kara.
Oh, we can't hear you, Kara.
Kara, you're muted.
Oh, Kara says she's good. She can't. She's having audio issues, so it's all good. That's Kara Thrasher Livingston. She's our training specialist 3, and she is awesome. And that takes to who I see next to Kara is Molly. Hey, Molly.
Hey, hello everyone. Molly Espinal, Nursing Unit Manager here at SDS.
And I see next to Molly, Jenna.
Hi, I'm Jenna Fairley, and I'm the Level of Care Supervisor in the IDD unit. And I don't see anybody next to me.
We got everyone.
Cassandra Lynch. I am Cassandra Lynch, and I'm a training specialist, and my camera is off.
Thanks, Cassandra. She's running the background, making sure that questions are flagged and answered. And you'll see some of us chatting in the box to you at different points. But if your questions don't get answered, it's okay. We'll collect them and review them and inform other additional trainings. Some of us may turn our cameras off at different times so that we can either, kind of spotlight whoever's speaking and go from there. But what you see on my screen is our agenda today. And the first thing that we want to kind of emphasize is the provider info share that's coming up on February 21st at 2 o'clock. And I want to, first of all, thank you all for telling other providers about this resource and encouraging providers to come to the provider office hour on Thursdays from 3 to 4. That's been really helpful. We've been getting increased contacts with other providers. We're slowly building our relationship with other provider groups. We just didn't have as much relationship and connections as we do with you. So you're helping us foster a better connection to our other providers. And that's really helping spread information and making us be able to streamline our collaboration and working together. So that's awesome. The next quick item that we wanted to make sure that you're cued into is that we officially have an end date for the public health emergency. Okay, that's a pretty big deal. For years now, we've been saying it's gonna have this end date and we're not sure for sure, and we've kind of been pushing it forward for a long time. We have an end date. It is for sure. And so I want you guys to really make sure you're queuing in to any e-alerts about the transition plan for transitioning from the flexibilities that we have and some of the trainings that are going to come up about flexibilities that are made permanent and those kind of concepts. For now, I want to make sure that you're aware that for your planning team meetings, that your AppK extensions go to May 11th right now. We are working on the short form. Okay, so we're working on the short form. And like I said, we're working on other materials and transition plans. But if you have questions about AppK, about flexibilities, if you want more information, or if you're worried about something with the PHE ending, email Kat. You know her email with CC support. She's collecting your questions so that we can make sure we help navigate through this. At this time, like the last time we talked about, practices you should be doing, making sure you look and see if there's any attestations in your files and working on those, and kind of gearing up for a transition where you should have a full plan, prepared, and kind of thinking about what that would take. But from there, the next thing that we have is our upcoming CEH on March 30th. It's going to be with Summer. Yeah, so Summer, will you give us kind of like a quick, like your sales pitch for why they should come to the CEH, what they could learn?
Can't wait. Yes. So we have new regulations that went into effect on October 16th of 2022. And we have been fielding some questions about this, so I know there's word on the street. But what that means is that providers now have an opportunity to earn either a 2, 3, or 4-year certification period. So I'm excited to tell you more about what those details look like on March 30th. But the one thing I want you to be aware of now is that there will be an impact. Probably the biggest impact to care coordinators will be how we collect CEHs. So please attend so you can learn more about how we're going to collect those 16 CEHs annually. That's a little buzzword, annually, which is currently in the COP, but we are now going to apply it. So if you want more information about what that looks like, please attend on March 30th. In addition to some other information that we'll offer about how to earn some of those longer certification periods. But then also in the meantime, we have created, it has not existed yet, but we have created an individual care coordinator waiver application guidance. So if you are familiar with our application guidance documents, we've had one for waiver and we've had one for PCS services. We have since broken them down. We're still kind of in the process of, I'll say that, to where we have initial and renewal application guidance documents for waiver providers, PCS providers, and individual care coordinators. So it will behoove you to use that as a checklist. But the reason I'm plugging that now is because we have almost come to a point where we are at a final draft. And I'm wondering, for those individual care coordinators who have been certified for 3 or more years, if they're coming up on renewal, if there's anyone interested in piloting that application guidance for us to see how well it flows, to see if it helps you put together a complete application packet, because that really is what it's designed to do. So just a little bit of history until to hold you over until March 30th is that we really wanted a way to incentivize and reward providers who are very good at giving us all the information we need at the time of certification. So for providers who are able to do that and can put together that complete packet, they will have the opportunity to earn up to a 4-year certification period and not have to talk to me or my team for 4 years, which that's kind of exciting in and of itself. So please come on March 30th. I know that's probably going to generate a lot of discussion and questions. Send them to Kat. I will be prepared with answers on March 30th, and I would love to have as many people there as possible. And if you are interested in piloting the application guidance, do not wait until the 30th. Please give your names to Kat. I will put the final touches on that document and send you a draft version for your use and feedback.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Summer. If any of you have questions about certification, like any element of the certification process, whether it's new regs or just general questions, would you mind putting them in our chat? Just go for it, or email them to Kat. Both are fine. But if you are listening to Summer right now and you have burning questions, go ahead and put them in. So I totally misspoke earlier about AppK. Okay, so I apologize. Kat, what would you say if you had to re-clarify what I said? How
So
would
we
you
are accepting the application short form support plans with a start date and up to July 1st. So look at the plan start dates, and we are accepting applications for plans that start up until July 1st. And then we are still working on the short forms, that's still pending. And we will have, more communication and more information and a kind of a solid transition plan for you guys. And I see the chat is like, oh, everyone's like the sigh of relief in the chat.
So sorry about that.
Sorry
Sometimes
about
when
that, guys.
you're talking, I'm looking at that date and I said that date, and I do apologize. I did not mean to scare you guys.
Panic, right? The panic
Yeah.
that this.
Yeah, so it's all good. It's till July. Just remember, it's till July. You're still set. But just kind of, if you have certification questions, like we said, if you're interested in piloting an application, reach out. The application guidance for care coordinators, maybe can help us make it a little bit more easy to read, a little bit easier to navigate. We want that for you, for all of you. That takes us, so Summer, I'm excited. We're looking forward to the 30th, and we'll talk to you then. I'm going to turn this over. Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to our special topics. And Kat, do you want to introduce like kind of the I guess
The reason
note
why we're talking about
yeah.
MERP.
Why are we talking about MERP?
So I think MERP seems kind of like it's something we don't talk about enough because, because of the pandemic, we haven't really been doing it, and there's been a lot going on. So we have Joanna and Jenna from the IDD unit, and then Molly from the assessment unit that are going to give us kind of a really high level overview of the MERP process. And they're just going to give us, like I said, general information about the process. And I know there were some questions about the note, and I know care coordinators were not able to see the note that was requesting additional documents, and we are working on getting that corrected. And we actually met about it today, and we should have a resolution soon. So I'll be sending you guys an email about that. But if you have questions about the MERP or anything that we're going to talk about today, you could just email me, and I will follow up with the IDD unit and the assessment unit. But Jenna and Joanna, I think you guys are on camera, so if you want to take it away, go ahead. And if you have questions about the process, just put them in the chat, and if we can't get to them today, we'll get you the answers after the info share. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I will take it away. So this is specifically for the IDD ISW programs. So you can hit the next slide, Delight. So there's 3 different ways that a MERP can occur under the IDD and ISW. If you submit a new evaluation and it no longer supports a qualifying diagnosis, so as you can see, that includes intellectual disability, other intellectual disability related condition, epilepsy, cerebral palsy, and autism. Another way is the evaluation no longer supports a substantial functional limitation in 3 areas of major life activity. So self-care, learning, language, mobility, self-direction, capacity for independent living, and economic self-sufficiency. And we will only look at capacity for independent living and economic self-sufficiency if the person is 16 or older. And then for economic self-sufficiency, they also have to not be enrolled in an educational program. So if they're in school in any capacity, we don't even look at it. And then the third way, scores over the broad independence score cutoff on the ICAP assessment. The next slide. So you're going to submit your renewal waiver level of care application. It's going to either be the ICAP or the interim, depending on the cycle. If you submit a new evaluation at the LOC reapplication, we are going to review that application in full to determine whether or not they continue to have a qualifying diagnosis and substantial functional limitation in 3 major life areas. If they don't have either of those, so one or the other, diagnosis is missing or the 3 areas are absent, we're going to initiate that MERP process. So this can also occur, let's say you have an individual who's on the ISW and they're pulled for IDD and you have to submit that new evaluation. We're going to look at that, and if it's determined again, no diagnosis or 3 areas, that ISW is going to go under that MERP process. So let's say that we're going to go into that third way. Let's say I can complete it. It goes to ICAP. The assessor completes the ICAP assessment, and we score it using our CompuScore program. And it scores the area of motor skills, social and communication skills, personal living skills, and community living skills, and it gives you that broad independence score. Next slide. So to meet the level of care for the ICAP, the person's broad independence score must be at or below the age cutoff. So this is just for ages 13 to 18, but you kind of get the point. So let's say a person's 13 years, 0 months. Their broad independence score cutoff is 492. And then as you can see, as they get older, the broad independence score cutoff gets a little bit higher. At age 17 years, 10 months, the independence score is 514 and it stays there until they're indefinitely. So once they turn 17, 10 months, it'll always be 514. If they score at or below that, I'm sorry, that's the next slide. So if they score at or below the age of cutoff, then their level of care is approved. But if they score above it, then their LOC is denied and it goes to material improvement. And that is that. And
I don't know, Jenna,
Jenna,
if you wanted to add anything. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. Jenna, if you want to add anything.
No, I think Joanna covered it. She's definitely the expert in the MERP process.
So we have a couple of questions, and they're kind of along the same line. So how often should someone who is on the IDD waiver get a new evaluation?
Once somebody's
So,
on the waiver, they don't really
oh,
need a new evaluation. We use the same evaluation to qualify them. I mean, we have ones back from like 2004. So once they're on the IDD waiver, they don't need a new evaluation.
Are there ever times where you guys would request a new evaluation? But if you do, you would give the care coordinators enough notice, right?
Yes.
so the only time we would really like request it, let's say there's like the diagnosis, like we accepted it like conditionally and like upon renewal, we need a new evaluation that has a more firm diagnosis. But yes, we would put a note in for the care coordinator. Upon renewal, we need a new evaluation. But that
Like
does
for
not
people
happen very often.
Like with early childhood developmental delay, that we only accept that through 8. But yeah, Joanna always gives that little note saying next year we need a new diagnosis.
Yeah.
And if someone does have a new evaluation, are the care coordinators or the family obligated to provide those new assessments if they're not specifically requested?
Nope, you're
Nope.
not obligated. There's nothing in regulation that says we require a new evaluation at any time. It's just at the initial. So that's where it can get kind of sticky with that IDD. If they're pulled for IDD and the evaluation that was used for ISW is now outdated for the initial IDD because it has to be completed within 36 months of submission, that's when it can get kind of into that MERP process more often because of the ISW program now being affected by that if they no longer meet the criteria.
I'm going to ask a couple more questions just so that we have enough time for Molly's presentation, and then I'll gather all the other questions and I'll follow up with you guys and get back to the care coordinators who asked them. But is it true that MERPs are happening without ICAPs? Are they happening as file reviews?
MERPs are happening, yes, it can happen without an ICAP because again, those first 2 where the evaluation no longer supports a qualifying diagnosis or the 3 areas. So we can tell by the evaluation by itself if they don't have either of those. And then yes, the MERP process would be complete without doing an ICAP. And what was the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
No, I think you answered it.
Oh, okay.
Can you get a MERP on a file review? That was the question.
No, no. The only way it would happen is if the file review turned into an ICAP and they scored over the cutoff.
Okay, I'm gonna have some more questions for you guys. These are kind of the general themes of questions. I don't know if Delight, Kara, anybody on our end wants to ask anything. If not, then we could ask Molly to do her presentation. And you guys are free to stick around, listen in.
Thanks.
Do you need us to present, Molly, your PowerPoint?
Yes, please.
Just give us a second.
Okay. All right, so this process is specific to nursing facility level of care. So your waiver programs, ALI, APDD, or CCMC programs. So this process was influenced by two major things. In 2006, legislature passed the Alaska Statute 47.07.045, which sets out certain requirements before the division can terminate someone from home and community-based waiver. After an annual assessment showing eligibility, in order to terminate someone from nursing facility level of care waiver, the division must be able to show that the person no longer has a functional limitation or cognitive impairment that would result in the need for nursing home placement, and that the individual is able to demonstrate the ability to function in a home setting without the need for waiver services. The assessment must also be reviewed by an independent healthcare professional. The second big influencing factor was in 2014 in the court case Crone versus the state of Alaska. That case clarified that before the division terminates someone from nursing facility level of care waiver, it must get all reasonably available medical documents or medical records that could be relevant to the level of care decision. Now, this process is applicable to renewal waiver assessments. When a renewal assessment is completed and the outcome of that assessment is denied, the assessment will go through a second level review process. And through that process, if the outcome of the assessment is upheld, the denial is upheld, then the assessment will go through the MERP process. So you can, next slide, please. So when the MERP process is initiated, we are responsible for sending out the notice. A letter goes to the care coordinator and the consumer or the recipient. And that letter explains that the process has started, that there was an assessment completed, and the outcome of the assessment was denied for nursing facility level of care. And now we start the process of material improvement review. That notice goes to the care coordinator and the consumer, and with that, the request for assistance in helping SDS gather records or gather information that's related to level of care. It's one of the important pieces of the notice is the timeliness the time frame we're looking at. So the whole process is a 60-day process, 60-day time frame, and so we ask for a response, regardless of what that response is. We ask for a response within 15 days. Even if the response is, we don't understand what you're asking for, or we need more than 15 days, or records were submitted. So not only do we send the notification, but we also, with that, we are asking for assistance in collecting or gathering records. A letter is also sent to the primary physician, specifically the one who signed the VOD. We also send the doctor a letter letting them know that we are reviewing nursing facility level of care. And if they have feedback or information directly related to a nursing facility level of care determination, as well as medical records to support that decision. We also give them a time frame of 15 days to respond. If we receive no responses from either the doctor or any other provider, we're sending requests to, we will follow up with a phone call or refax. Next slide, please. Refax a request for information. Once information is received, a review is completed. The nurse assigned to the specific case is responsible for reviewing all of the information received and looking back at the assessment which found the consumer approved for waiver for level of care, and compare that approval to the assessment that found them denied. And again, we're looking for specific information that shows the consumer no longer has a functional limitation or cognitive impairment that would result in the need for nursing home placement, and that the individual is able to demonstrate the ability to function in a home setting without the need for waiver services. So once the review is compiled, the summary is prepared and sent off to our third-party reviewer, which is Comagin. Comagin also has a specific time frame they are to complete their review and notify SDS of their of the outcome of their review. Next slide, please. Once we are notified of the level of care determination by our third-party reviewer, that is usually the level of care determination we will proceed with. So if the denial is overturned by Comagin, that the approval notice will be sent out. If it is upheld, the denial is upheld, then a denial letter will be sent out to the care coordinator and a hard copy mailed out to the consumer. And of course, that along with that will be fair hearing rights and specific time frame to file for fair hearing if that's indeed the decision. Next slide, please. So in all, that's the high-level overview of the MERP process. It's a pretty extensive request for information. We look to our assessments and application renewal waiver applications to identify who those providers might be, who we should be sending requests for information to. We also send releases, but like care coordinators, we also experience the struggle with getting records sent to us timely. But our request, or at least from SDA, from our perspective, is we will send those requests out to providers And we ask that the consumer and care coordinators also reach out and connect with those providers. You know, we hope that our request is supported by the consumer's request as well as the care coordinator, and hopefully that will garner enough attention on the provider's end, and get us the information we're looking for in a much more timely fashion. Again, when there are no responses after 15 days, we'll follow up with another call, or maybe even refaxing the request. And again, if there is no response in 15 more days, then we will proceed without those records. How can care coordinators assist with this process? When you know the assessment has been denied and is going through second level review, you can see this information, or at least that program status in the program status field in Harmony, until it changes to level of care determined, or LOC/LOS determined. You can also look at the last page of your assessment, like the snippet on this slide is the last page of the assessment of your CAT. Just before the bottom section, you will see there's a nursing facility level of care right below the assessor name that will indicate whether it was approved or denied. So you might see that your assessment says denied, but you actually got a approval notice. That tells you that in the second level review process, the denial was overturned, and that led to the level of care approval notice that you got. So the information is not consistent and can be confusing, but once you receive your level of care approval and you see the assessment was denied, know that that meant the second level review process deemed the denial was appropriate to be overturned and made into an approval. Now that should tell you next year, it's probably best to request additional information, or request records that you as a care coordinator believe to be information that should be considered for level of care. Again, we understand the challenges of trying to get records, but looking at next year's application, which is due 90 days before your level of care ends, we know that gathering information that early on before an assessment might be done might seem too early. But here, once we get to the MERP process, that's where information becomes very, what information is needed. And going back to look in the system during the second level review process, when we find those records or that documentation, it's easier on the second level review, for the second level review process to overturn the denial and maybe avoid some of these MERPs. If we're able to overturn the denial in-house, that's what we look to do, more so than having to go through the MERP process and, you know, putting all of this work together to send it out to a third-party reviewer. If that is what needs to be done, that is what we'll do. But just some information or some of the ways you can, as the care coordinator, look at how you can help influence the process for the next level of care determination year. And that is all I have. Just scrolling through my notes to see if there's anything else.
I have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Okay.
They're kind of along the same lines. So what happens when you guys send a notice to the doctor about needing more documents? What happens if the doctor's no longer with the hospital or with the clinic, and let's say the person didn't know that the doctor left, how do you guys deal with that? Does that letter go to the hospital, the clinic, or do you do some follow-up, or how does that work?
We will ask the clinic. Usually the clinic would have another provider review records that exist with that clinic and make a determination or provide us with a statement that according to the review of the chart they have, this is what they believe to be most appropriate. It's a little harder on the hospital side. Most of the time we don't, we get responses like that. Doctor is no longer with the hospital, or sometimes we get information that the doctor is with a certain clinic or a different hospital, and we can try and track that way. But we look to the entity who has the records. If that's the entity who has the records, then we ask, if there's no response or statement from the doc, could they just at least provide us with the records that we can use to review?
I think that covers most of the questions. I don't know if any Kirklanders have any more questions. You guys could put them in the chat now, or you could email them and we could get back to you. I'm hoping to kind of compile all these questions and create them into like an FAQ, so that we could always look back and kind of get some questions answered. And we will be emailing those 2 presentations out to all the attendees and basically all the care coordinators. So you can always look at that if you have questions. Delight, Kara, Cassandra, I don't know if Joanna's still on because I can't see the attendees right now, but I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions about those 2 presentations. That was great. Thank you guys for coming. It was super informative just for me alone, so I hope everybody else got things out of it. So thanks.
Same. I learned a lot. I really appreciate the tip about the cat, Molly, because I know that we're all trying to look for ways to kind of anticipate where a case will go. And the fact that it's conflicting is very counterintuitive. So I really appreciate that feedback. I did see one clarifying question for the IDD team, and it was about which evaluation, like the distinction between the neuropsych versus I guess the QDC kind of question in there is kind of higher up, Cat, like quite a ways. And I think it might have come out at a different time. So maybe Joanna,
we
you could
flag
give
it?
a little.
Is it flagged?
I think so. I think that it's kind
Joanna,
of,
you can talk about the different evaluations that you look at, or that
I think
are
that would be helpful.
Yeah, and maybe the providers who can do these evaluations, that I could put that as a part of this reference. So I think we have that on our checklist, but maybe just a few more details about that. That'll be great. Thanks.
Yep, I can go into that. So what we look for with terms of like an evaluation is like a neuropsych, psych eval, even like at a school ESER. For intellectual disability, we accept the diagnosis from psychologists, master's level psychologists, psychological associate. For autism, it has to be a clinical level psychologist, neuropsychologist, or developmental pediatrician. So PhD, PsyD, EDD, like we wouldn't accept the ESER for autism unless the school psych happened to have those credentials. So like the difference, like you submit the QDC annually, that's a requirement. That doesn't have any of the testing that I'm looking for. It just has that code signed by a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant. So there's the difference there. We have to have testing that shows like standardized testing. So like scores 70, standardized testing, scores 70 or below, or things like that. The QDC doesn't go into that. So I don't know if that clarified anything.
Yeah, it does. I mean, because I think that there was there was just a clarification of like, do you mean the initial, you know, like the difference
So,
between initially getting on the waiver versus the annual requirements and what will be requested for in the event of a MERP? I
okay,
guess is like the
okay, so like for an initial, we need that evaluation. It has to have been completed within 36 months of submission. On renewals, the only thing we require is a QDC and the application ROIs, things like that. If let's say you submit, let's say they were on the IDD program, you had to submit a new evaluation, we determined they don't have a diagnosis or 3 areas, we would do the MERP. What we would request would be any information, so like even a newer eval or ESERS, anything that would help us maybe determine, okay, they do by this have a substantial functional limitation, or here's that diagnosis that this person didn't give. That kind of thing is what we would be looking for. Going to be honest, it's kind of rare that you're going to submit anything that's going to change the outcome, because it's a red flag when like one test has them scoring 70 or below, and then the same as test is administered by a different professional has them scoring in like the 90s or 100s. We like to look for them consistently meeting a substantial functional limitation. So if you got scores all over the place, we can't make a determination. Behavior can't interfere with testing. Like if they're refusing, they're having a bad day and they're scoring low, and that's stated in the evaluation. The psychologist says, you know, she didn't sleep last night, she's having a bad day, she didn't put forth her best effort. These are the scores. We're going to look at that and be like, nah, if that's not an accurate representation, then we're not going to accept that. So things like that. But renewals, like I said, we don't require a new evaluation unless we ask for it specifically, and we will tell you hopefully a year in advance so that you'll have plenty of time to get a new one. But that's very rare. It's only we see that with the early childhood developmental delay. We only take that to age 8. So that's when it would be required again. And then if something's iffy, but not very often do we see that.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think that really clarified it, because I think there was just a little bit of confusion on, you know, the start and like the reapplication and then to the MERP. So that really tidied that up for me, at least. If you guys have more questions, please let us know. I think there's a couple more, Kat. You
There's
see
a
in there?
couple more questions. Yeah, so speaking of applications, and this is both for Joanna and Molly. What if there's an application and the supporting documents are, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pages, let's say, I mean, we've seen that, where it's, you know, 500, 900 pages of documents. Can that be dropped off at SDS? Can that be mailed? Like, how can that be submitted if it's so many documents? That would take a very long time. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, you can drop it off. We have to upload it somehow into Harmony, I think, the Harmony record. So likely you could drop it off at SDS and we would do our thing and split it up. But yeah, if it's a huge document, make sure, first of all, we need all the information. Like we don't need every, like, let's say shot and snot record. Like we don't need every single physical that they've gone to. I mean, for IDD at least, I'm not going to speak for Molly, but like for IDD, ISW, we really don't need all of that information unless it's relevant to the waiver. So like if you're submitting medical documents, we really don't look at those in the IDD unit. Like if you have like behavioral health, yeah, we'll take a look at that, but make sure like it's relevant. Like, do they really need this? This is the last time they went to the doctor. No, we don't. Please don't send it. I'm not going to read it. So just like, kind of ask yourself, is this relevant to the waiver, to the IDD waiver? But I'll let Molly answer for her what she needs.
Yeah, we would get these all different ways. We've had boxes of records dropped off. We've had CDs mailed to us. However you can get it to SDS, by all means. We prefer you send it to us, you know, in harmony, but understanding sometimes there's lots of pages. I know we've had other comments from other care coordinators like, okay, I have 600 pages, but I don't know what you need or don't need, so I'm not going to look at them. You guys can, and that's fine. We can sort through them. We, on the NFLOC side, we're looking specifically at the last 12 months of records. So we may not need records from, you know, 3-5 years ago, unless, you know, unless you as a care coordinator really feel like that's important and hasn't been captured already in the assessment. So yeah, we can, however you get it to SDS, we'll accept it.
So, but I'm hearing the relevance is key, right? So don't send super outdated things. Don't send things to IDD that are necessarily not related to the waiver. You know, and I'll speak for myself. I have seen applications when I was with the IDD unit that had dental, you know, dental records and things and immunization records that are not necessarily really relevant to any of the assessments that are taking place. So just think about that before you get all those documents. And Delight, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Okay, so I think maybe your teams may not have been aware of this, but at different points during the pandemic, we have had care coordinators attempt to drop off boxes at our physical locations, and the front desk won't take it because of the HIPAA components of that, of like, well, who do I give all this personal health information to? You know, like I don't have a handoff point. And so with that being said, if you decided to take medical records today and drop them off to SDS, we would tell you to take them back. So, but what I'm hearing from these teams right now is that if you're in this situation, you should reach out to SDS before you make any significant moves. I would encourage you to come to office hours and chat with Kat or myself or any of our training team to kind of give some parameters of like, okay, so what, like, when you say you have 900 pages of records, is it because of a major surgery or something that, you know, that would be something that Molly's team will want to see? Or is it 900 pages of like optometrist and like dental and shots that Joanna does not want to see? And so kind of making, like, keying in the relevancy. And then once we figure out, you know, do you really need all of those documents? Then we'll kind of walk through this with you on either, more than likely our team will help you upload those documents to Harmony. And then if for whatever reason that is just not going to work, we'll help you figure out how to make that work with that particular assessment team. But in general, like because what you're hearing from the teams is that they are going to do whatever it takes to get the records, to make the decision, to ensure level of care is made, to continue services. That's what they're saying to you, like, we'll do whatever it takes to make it work for the medical records. But there are HIPAA components to it. You can't just drop off documents because honestly, we don't have people, we don't have like the person that would be requesting that. They're probably not at the office to receive them. So if you are in that situation, just come to office hours and we can help you navigate and figure out if we need to get you connected to the assessor to make some sort of game plan if you have that kind of scenario. You can do it in Harmony. It is probably not going to be a fun time. You may need to get some coffee and, you know, like get ready to do some clicking, but it is possible. And we can help you with some tips and tricks.
I was going to say we could help, and there's some good pointers in the care coordinators are putting in the comments in the chat saying, you know, you could break it up, you could review it and kind of take out the irrelevant pieces. So kind of part of it is kind of on you guys to make sure that you know, we're not getting irrelevant documents and that you're also reviewing what you're sending us first. But I don't know if Cassandra wanted to say something. I heard somebody
No, I was
chiming in.
going to say maybe if they would would be able to call and let someone know they're dropping it off first, you know, and versus wasting a trip trying to come down and drop off some documents. And that way they would know, they will be able to give them some guidance. Even though, I do understand that you just said for them to come to office hours and we could help them with some of that. But sometimes they may need to talk directly to that team to see what direction do that team want them to do. You know, at least they could be expecting what is coming.
Yeah, again, the front desk folks are under advisement not to receive it. So it would have to be something where the front, like the SDS assessment team would have to make some sort of plan with the front desk. So it's not standard protocol. Standard protocol is to upload it into Harmony. And if that is just not going to be a thing for you for whatever reason, like something's going on with that, like reach out to the assessment team, reach out to office hours and CC support. Just really the biggest thing that we can tell you is like, let us know, get connected with us on what struggle you're experiencing, because we can then work on a plan on how to get this sorted out so that we can ensure continuity of care for the client. That's really our end goal here, right? Is like, how can we make sure that we can verify the level of care so that services can continue?
So there are
I
some
just kind of
questions
wanted
about,
to, sorry, Kat.
oh, hold on, Cassandra. There's some questions about, you know, can you mail it in? Can you DSM it? So and you guys see this is a kind of, SDS is not big, but it is big because we're kind of all over the place, right? We're split up. So I'm going to verify with the unit managers and make sure kind of what's acceptable, what you need to speak to kind of, you know, the unit first and how you could get the documents and if you cannot get them in DSM. So hold off.
Or Harmony. Harmony.
Or
Harmony.
right.
Yeah.
The preference is always in Harmony, but if for whatever reason you cannot do that, reach out to me in training and we'll work, you know, with you on that. And then if that's also not going to be an option, then we'll kind of troubleshoot. But you should not think that mailing documents or dropping documents off is like in the first or the second or even a third option. So, and same thing with faxing.
And I'm just going to say, throw this out there for at least the IDD ISW unit, application should never be over, it should be always like, there's no reason it shouldn't be under 100 pages. Like I've seen renewal applications that are over 200 pages. Please don't do that to me. I'm not going to read everything. Submit only what's necessary. We have a checklist for the ICAP application. Follow the checklist. Like submit the ESER, submit the neuropsych, submit the QDC, the ROS, anything that's needed. If it's not on there, we don't need it. So like medical records, we typically don't need, you know, dentists, eye doctor, we don't need it. So anything that's relevant, but at least the ICAP applications, renewal and initial should not be that big where you have to send in boxes of stuff. Just want to throw that out there. It shouldn't take
well, I
so
think
much bandwidth.
it's tricky. It's tricky because we're talking about two different levels of care here, and they have different things that they're evaluating. While it's very likely that the NFLOC side, like they can definitely get to 900 pages. It happens, but again, it's know you have resources to navigate it. If it's not possible for you to navigate it, reach out. We don't want you struggling or delaying because you can't you can't get the records, you can't upload the records, anything like that, where you're having a road blockage to being able to respond and ask for help. Really, that's the best thing that we can say, okay? What it sounds like, Kat, you're going to be doing some clarification on alternative methods for submitting documents. So in the context of today's learning session, Kat's putting together a summary, and that's going to be included in it. So that should help give us some guidance and direction. Anything else that we see that we want to touch base on, Kat, that you see kind of coming through on the questions?
No, I think we covered most of them. We have some questions outstanding, but I'll be doing follow-up with Molly, Joanna, and Jenna about that, and I'll put together a little FAQ so that we could, all look back and reference it. Yeah, I think we're good.
Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much for coming. I know I learned a lot, and I think it's pretty clear everybody did too. And we're at time. We have 3 minutes left. So I think what we'll go ahead and do is we'll just kind of turn off our cameras, and we're just gonna let the chat go until 3 o'clock. You guys put in your questions. They can be about certification questions. They can be about MERP, and we'll take them. They can be about whatever's going on in your world, and we're going to take that and work with it, okay? So as always, thank you for doing what you do and supporting Alaskans and living their best lives. We know that that's what you're doing out there. And thanks to our awesome panelists, and we'll see you next time, okay?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
It's a lot of thanks to Joanna for putting a face with phone calls.
We should be emailing out like photos of us so that people know who they're talking to. Just saying. I know this is being recorded. I'm on record.